Yeah, a little setup and then a question. One of my favorite books in the last decade was this funny little book called The Death of Christian Britain. And this fellow by the name of Callum Brown, who's a professor in the UK, did this analysis of the death of Christian Britain, and I thought the book reviewers would take issue with his basic title, you know. And then nobody did, because people said, "Oh yeah, it's definitely dead," you know. It doesn't mean that Christianity has completely been wiped off the face of the British Isles, but rather that the British people stopped identifying themselves with the Christian faith. Well, one thing that he addresses, and he spends a couple of chapters on this particular issue, and it just caught my attention. He calls it, one factor in the death of Christian Britain was the feminization of the church. And it's not that that's a bad thing, but it just like the men in Britain didn't have anything for them in the church anymore. And I'll tie that with something else. William Lane Craig recently in a blog post or some sort of Facebook entry said something about how thrilled he was on his recent tour because so many men would turn out at his presentations. Do you find there's some special rejuvenation going on among men when they hear apologetic messages? What's the relationship here?
Well, my observation, at least early on, was that mostly men showed up with their girlfriends or wives in tow. And I saw that changing. So in the area of apologetics, it seemed more like this was more of a guy thing at first, and I've seen over the last probably 10 years into our enterprise at Stand to Reason, the demographic had changed considerably, and I was really, really glad to see that, because it's not a man thing. It's a human thing. It's a person thing. It's a Christian thing. Followers of Christ need to be thoughtful about their convictions and be able to engage. Not just the guys that have the pocket protectors, and do all. It's not just a left brain.
Hey,
thing.
watch it. John Bloom's sitting down there.
Yeah. So my observation about those that have been coming to events, that particular demographic has been more male, and now it's getting more generalized. I do think this is a problem in the church, and it's so much of a problem, the feminization, that even Craig Hazen had to say, but that's not a bad thing. You notice that? He didn't want to make half of you really mad, right?
I met a woman one time. Yeah.
But I think it's largely because the church has been, women have gravitated towards spiritual things more aggressively than men. And consequently, there haven't been a lot of men that have engaged spirituality by comparison in rich, aggressive ways. And I think that is beginning to change a bit. Remember when that book Iron John came out about 15 years ago? That was addressing a similar kind of thing. It was a secular author. And then more things came out by Christian authors to address that. And I think there's some change going on there. But I think that is a concern, although I don't see it in the same way in the apologetic circles.
I noticed something watching Jay Warner's presentation in the desert a few weeks ago. He did this wonderful cold case Christianity presentation. I don't know how you crammed all that into 30 or 35 minutes. Just amazing. But I spent most of the time, I watched it twice. The first time I watched this presentation, the second time I watched the audience. And the men in the audience were just leaning forward like I've never seen them before in a church. So there was something there for them. I think this feminization thing...
He's got a gun, that's why.
Oh! And he had a badge. He pulled back his...
Hey, are you packing heat right now?
I'm feeling protected.
If I'm breathing, I'm typically got something, yes. But I can tell you there's a lot of cops. You discover that there are people who, a lot of cops are at these presentations. There are several law enforcement officers in this room right now that I've met over, the last year or so, and are drawn to an evidential approach. And we just recognize that, one of the things you do for a living, we're working with evidence every day. And we've taken it for granted. This is this is a transferable skill set. And I think the one thing I always try to say with young people, and I think, Sean, you would agree with me on this, and Brett, you would too for sure, is that I typically say if we want to change the youth culture, we need to stop teaching. And we need to stop teaching immediately. And we need to start training. And there's a difference. Because training is teaching with a fight at the end. Basically, fighters get fat between fights, right? I mean, until they sign the next fight, they get fat. Then they get a fight signed, and suddenly they're training like crazy because in 6 weeks, if they can't do this, they're going to get beat. So they want to be training to get ready for the fight. And so what we started doing years ago was scheduling fights. So in 2 weeks, well, you guys are back in Utah before. Are we first? I think we're first going.
I already did the.
Dude, we're going in 2 weeks.
Don't
You
get
going
in a
2
fight
weeks?
about it. Come on.
Don't start that. You
I
know
went
what?
in 2
Tomorrow.
weeks.
You know what?
We have
This guy is such a nuisance. You're going to see tomorrow. Is he a nuisance, Mary Jo? You know he is.
You sound like a senior citizen, man.
Dude, that is so it. I am not going to feel bad. Amy, am I going to feel bad about my presentation tomorrow now? No, I'm not going to feel bad. So just come tomorrow. I've got something to
Hey,
say about
we
what you
had a
just
deal.
said. No,
We had a
deal's
deal.
off. Deal is off. Sorry, go ahead.
All right, now that the cranky old guy has.
No, what we started to do, we started to schedule fights. In other words, we scheduled the battle that they're going to face eventually. And that might be a week in Berkeley, where they're going to meet with the best atheist minds we can put in front of them. Or that's going to be a week in Utah. We're going to be in a week from Monday, we're going for a week. And we're going to put the best, I've got a big LDS family. I got 6 brothers and sisters, they're all Mormon. And I can tell you that we're going to spend time talking to a lot of Mormons in a week. And that's going to have to, our kids are going to have to get ready and become good Orthodox theologians in order to spend time on the street combating, which is a very sophisticated heresy. So we're going to spend time by scheduling. Now you're not just teaching, now you're training because a fight is coming. And kids take that much more seriously.
And I think, and I was going to, go ahead. Yeah, you can clap for him. Okay.
That's what we do.
I taught him everything he knows.
Oh, jeez, here we go. You can tell we were pretty good friends after all these years.
Kind of connecting this whole kind of fight mission idea with kind of the feminization issue that you brought up. I think one thing that I found is that with apologetics being connected to the larger mission of the church and used in the service of evangelism and our mission to proclaim the gospel, I think there's a big appeal there for men to live their life for this greater mission. Yeah. And this battle, and I know a lot of kind of postmodern voices out there have really warned us against, battle language and this kind of thing. And of course we have to be careful with it, but it's the language of Scripture. Paul says that we're in a war, we're in a battle, we're in a fight. And of course, we conduct ourselves in a different kind of way as ambassadors with knowledge, wisdom, and character. But I think this kind of apologetics in the service of our mission, of the proclamation of the gospel, has an appeal that I give my life to this great raging battle, this unfolding drama through the ages. And this is where I see the young men that we take on these mission trips. We've got 2 that we've developed, to Berkeley and to Utah. And in fact, when I first came on to Stand to Reason in 2003, it was the summer of 2004, where I had done these with my own youth groups when I was a youth pastor. And the very first trips that I took to Utah and to Berkeley were with Jim when he was a youth pastor. And what we saw is just this would light the guys up. Because they would gear up for the fight, so to speak. Yeah. And we taught them how to fight well and to fight as good ambassadors. But I think there's a big appeal there.
Very good.